Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is John. I am Orphan Car Garage. I'm located in Massachusetts in the town of Abington, and that's about 30 minutes or so south of the city of Boston. I mentioned this car to you in an earlier video, that video I did on the 76 Cadillac DeVille. This car in front of us is owned by the same gentleman, and we've agreed to help him liquidate his small collection of very interesting and very cool cars. I mentioned this car in particular during the Cadillac video because I was super excited to show it to you, and here I am doing it today. This is a 1966 Oldsmobile Toronado, one of my absolute favorite cars of all time. This one I'm having a hard time selling for him, as I'd like to buy it for myself, but happens all the time. Especially in this case, because like I said, this is one of my all-time favorite cars. This is literally a General Motors prototype that came to life. Literally, the short story is in 1962, a gentleman by the name of North, his last name was North, David North, I just had to check my cheat sheet there, penned this car on paper around 1962. And just sort of on a lark, never intending for it to actually come into fruition. And soon after he penned this car on paper, General Motors came to the design studio and said that they wanted a personal luxury coupe to compete with the likes of the Ford Thunderbird, and even in their own corporation of Buick, the Buick Riviera. So Oldsmobile wanted their own personal luxury coupe, and they used David North's design that he had just kind of on a whim sketched out on paper just a few short months prior. So that car became the Toronado. The interesting part is, and it sort of reminds me of AMC, this car was originally designed, the original intention of this car was to be built on the shorter platform of like the F-85 Cutlass, but for cost reasons they ended up going with the larger, I think the E platform, which was also shared by the Buick Riviera. It reminds me of AMC with the Marlin, because the original idea of the Marlin was to be designed on the smaller American frame, and instead they built the car on the larger Rambler Classic frame. So very similar story to that. I thought it was rather ironic. However, I think the larger version of this car, the larger framed version of this car, works quite well, although it wasn't how it was originally planned. I think the end result, the execution, is just beautiful. Look at the rear end of this car. This is 1966. There was nothing like it on the road. You've got that dual exhaust protruding through the bumper cutouts, that seemingly one-piece tail light sweeping across, the narrowing of the body from the roof down to the tail. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. Those protruding wheel arches on the sides, that two-door hardtop design. This car was not available with a vinyl top in 1966. You couldn't get it if you tried, which I think is fantastic. I don't think that came along until 67 or 68 as a factory option. 66, this is how you got it, and I think this is the best way you could have gotten it. No convertibles or four doors were ever available in the Toronado through all its generations. GM built the Toronado through, I believe, 1992. There was about 4 generations of these cars. This one being the first, that ran from 1966 to 1970, I believe. Each year got a little tweak in styling, but the 1966, like we have here in front of us, is my absolute favorite, with the 67 being a close second. They got a little funky and weird looking after that, I think. And then in 71, they went to a completely different platform. Speaking of platforms, GM decided to go with a front-wheel drive configuration, a front-engine V8, a big, powerful 425 cubic inch V8 under the hood that was borrowed from some of their other full-size cars at the time, like the Olds 98. They actually beefed up the engine for the Toronado. I think they added another 10 or 20 horsepower to it. I think it was about 385 horsepower when all was said and done, with front-wheel drive. Now, American cars hadn't had front-wheel drive since the Cord. If any of you know what the Cord is, it's a very cool car. Check it out, Google it. Those cars were around in the 1930s, and that was a front-wheel drive car back then. Once the Cord went out of production, the Americans kind of didn't bother with front-wheel drive until this car came along. Yes, it's an E platform from GM, and it does share the frame with the Buick Riviera, but the Buick Riviera is rear-wheel drive, more traditional. Only the Oldsmobile Toronado got the front-wheel drive configuration. And then in 67, when Cadillac introduced their Eldorado, personal luxury coupe that also shared the front wheel drive configuration of this Toronado. But I always preferred the Toronado over the look of the Eldorado and even the Buick Riviera from that time. This is just a beautiful, the lines of this car are unbelievable. Now let's talk about this car in particular. You'll notice right away the color. It's called almond beige. Probably not a color I would have chosen in 1966 if I was buying a brand new Toronado. With so many cool colors you could have gotten on this car, the reds, the blues, the teals. For some reason, Mr. Herman Lott, he was the original owner of this car, decided he wanted his car almond beige. And to add to that, it gets even more peculiar when you look inside, because the interior of this car is dark green. Yes, dark green inside. This had to have been a special order car. Mr. Lott must have gone into the Oldsmobile dealer to order this car. I can't imagine an Oldsmobile dealer would have ordered almond beige with a green interior. I'm assuming Mr. Lott ordered this car completely for himself. I did a little Google search on Herman. He was a very interesting guy. He's from Dubuque, Iowa, and that's where this car was sold new, obviously in Dubuque, where he resided. He's got a little Wikipedia page. He was a preservationist. He loved preserving old buildings in Dubuque. He was a business owner in Dubuque, and a very distinguished looking gentleman. There's a picture of him on the internet. Harold Lott, L-O-T-T. He was the original owner of this car. He passed away in 1981. This car was sold prior to his passing in the late 1970s. I'm a little shaky on the dates. Probably around 1978, the car was sold by him, and the car went to San Jose, California. We have a complete history of this car, which is really cool, because more cars should have histories included. A lot of cars we get in here, sadly, the histories are lost. I love it when the history comes with the car, because sadly the cars can't speak for themselves. So this car went to San Jose in the late 1970s. How it was found by a gentleman in San Jose is interesting, because we didn't have internet back then. Today, it's not uncommon for a car to travel cross country and back from different owners, because we have the internet, such as me on the internet with YouTube. This car will be seen all over the world, but we didn't have outlets like this in the 1970s to sell cars, so mostly you put it in your local newspaper, classified ad, or one advertiser, and the cars usually stayed pretty local. Somehow this car ended up, again, in San Jose, California, with its second owner, and it resided there until around 1986, where it was purchased by a woman in Illinois, and she was an absolute Oldsmobile and old car fanatic. Most of the history I have on this car is from her. She had this car repainted, so this almond beige is a repaint. I think around 1990-ish. Other than that, the car is very original. The interior appears to be all original. I'll get inside there in a minute. And she showed this car at national events. She was very active in the Oldsmobile Club, the Toronado clubs. She gave the next owner a large box of Toronado Club newsletters, and she actually wrote a farewell letter about this car to the next owner that she sold it to. Now, I'm jumping ahead of myself, but again, she bought this car in the 1980s, and I think she sold it in 1997. So from the late 1980s to the late 1990s, she showed this car at Oldsmobile and AACA events, and she mentions in her letter to the next owner that this car won several first place awards at national Oldsmobile meets. And I believe it. Even to this day, it's held up extremely well. Really nice chrome. Just excellent shape for the year of the car. Chrome is all original from what I can tell. The only thing that's been done on this car is a repaint by her, and we do have this weird spot of primer here that the current owner must have been trying to fix. Maybe there was some flaking of the paint, certainly no rust. And he masked it off and primed it, but never sprayed it with the almond beige. I think he gave me a can of the almond beige, but it's probably so old now it would need to be redone. But anyway, she kept the car and showed it. Very, very active again in Oldsmobile clubs and so forth. She loved the car. I have the letter that she wrote to the gentleman that she sold it to from there, who lived in South Dakota. So the car left Illinois and went to South Dakota to its fourth owner. From South Dakota, I believe it came to Boston. And there was 2 owners here in the Boston area. The current owner that I'm assisting with the sale, the older gentleman that has this and the Cadillac, purchased this about 10 years ago. No, I'm sorry. He purchased this in 2007 from the gentleman that brought it here from South Dakota, I believe. So we've got 5 or 6 owner history on the car, but what's cool is we have the owner history, and it's been very well preserved by most of those owners. They appreciated it for what it obviously is. I'm gonna get inside now and show you the interior. It's really stunning inside. Car hasn't been used much in the past few years. Much like the Cadillac, this car was stored away as the gentleman was getting older and more feeble and unable to use the car. So this car was kept in a garage, unlike the Cadillac that sadly had to sit outside. This car at least was kept in a garage, and it was preserved very, very well. There's a little bit of a musty smell in here because the garage was a cinder block style garage, and that generally gets a little musty. Cleaned up the interior though, really, really nice. There's a little bit of a smell still in here, I'm not gonna lie. It gets less and less every day. I've had the car here at the shop about 3 weeks now. But look at this green interior. We've got a split bench seat with a fold down armrest and a center speaker, which I believe in the Toronado would make this a deluxe. There was a standard Toronado and a deluxe Toronado, and this is indeed the deluxe. We've got vinyl on the outside and a fabric, sort of a fabric tweed on the inside. And again, just fantastic. That's a reflection from the mirror. That's no flaw. See, it's just a reflection from the glass. Beautiful, beautiful interior. The door panels are outstanding. What's really cool about 66s is there's a handle back here for the rear seat passengers to open the door. I think that's really, really cool. So you've got a handle for the rear seat passenger and the handle here for the front seat passenger. We got a power seat and 4 power windows, and all of it works. I think one of the functions of the power seat, well, the key has to be on, but it does work. I think the rear tilt doesn't work. I'll show that when we start the car. I believe there's got to be juice to that switch for that to happen. We got original floor mats. The passenger side with the Oldsmobile emblem, and the driver's side there, which is sort of a hard plastic that's actually screwed to the floor. And yes, that is correct. We got an AM/FM stereo, which works beautifully. That's a Wonderbar AM/FM stereo from Oldsmobile. That's original to the car, and it works fantastically. We got that really cool slot machine. Sorry about that. I got some goop there on the lens. It cleans off. Slot machine style or barrel style speedometer, which is one of my favorite things about these cars. The needle stays put, and almost like the Wheel of Fortune wheel, the speedometer spins around behind the needle. Such a great feature these cars have. Another feature that the car has that's really cool is a telescopic steering wheel, which was optional. So you turned this to release the wheel, and the wheel moved forward and back, and you turned it back to lock it into the desired location. It also has a tilt wheel for tilt. So we've got tilt and telescopic steering in this car, which would have been an option. And it also has the rarely seen, I think, I haven't seen too many Tornados with this, Comfortron temperature control units, so HVAC systems. That would have been very much like the Cadillacs. You set the dial to the temperature in the car that you want it's set at, and the system does everything for you. Low, high, defrost is about it for options on the slide bar. It was meant to be completely user-friendly. In other words, it basically did all the work for you. But I will tell you that I cannot get anything to happen out of that system. All the components seem to be under the hood. I cannot get the air conditioning to actuate, the compressor to kick on. I did move it to defrost, and I did feel a trickle of air coming out up here, but I couldn't really get a fan to operate. I don't know enough about these automatic Comfortrons. I actually don't love them. I wish more of these old cars had the more standard AC or key where you just set it and forget it to where you want it. This is a set it forget it temperature thing. It's got a lot of memory and sensors and actuators, and rarely do I get a car in with automatic temperature control that's 50 or 60 years old where it actually works 100%. The Lincolns had a very similar setup, in the 60s and 70s, and rarely do they work to perfection. This one doesn't seem to work at all, but I could be doing something wrong. Maybe I'm not giving enough time. I don't know. But we're selling the car as is. I think that's where the inside temperature sensor is, so that it can sense the inside temp to where you want it set there on that wheel. It's cool, but it's a little complicated for 1966. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. We've got just over 100,000 miles on the odometer, 102,408. It's just an unbelievable condition for that mileage. Obviously very, very well cared for. Beautiful dash, but there is a little crack right here. Right here, you can see. Yeah. It's not bad. Almost not noticeable, but it's there. I just wanted to point that out. A double ashtray, and they were in great condition in there. Again, passenger side door panel is just as nice as the driver's side. So are the side panels back there. All the power windows, like I said, operate. The rear seat's in fantastic condition, as is the headliner. Everything is green in here. Everything is green. Start it up for you now. Runs beautifully. This car weighs about 4,500 pounds, but with a 385 horsepower engine under the hood, they moved this car 0 to 60 in just under 8 seconds, I read. Not bad for a big car like this in 1966. Just bear with me here. I'm gonna put you down here for a second. There we go. Sorry about that. It's hard to do when you're a one-man show and there's like a 200-pound hood you gotta open. But here we go. 425 cubic inches. Really clean engine bay. Like I said, all the AC is here. That Frigidaire compressor is hooked up with a belt. The receiver dryer, the evaporator, everything seems to be here. It could be a relay or an actuator that's not doing its job on that Comfortron. I'm not sure. We're not going to get into it. We're selling the car as is, and we're pricing it accordingly. This car is going to be a real bargain. Power steering and power brakes, of course. Got about 80 or 100 photos of this car on my website, orphancargarage.com. I mean, considering this car sat in a garage mostly untouched for the last 3 or 4 years, it's really unbelievable how well this car operates. The brakes are great. Carburetor idles just the way it's supposed to. The car starts and runs every time. No noises or smoke. He would go over, he kept a trickle charger on it. Like I said, it was inside in the garage with electricity. He kept a trickle charger on it. And he'd go over a few times a year and start the car and move it in and out of the garage. That was about it for the past 3 or 4 years or so. So it's really quite amazing. But as you start driving this car more regularly, it may need some maintenance done to it. I would change fluids. The tires are probably 10, maybe 20 years old. Probably put a new set of tires on it. It's even running off the old gas. I mean, the gas of this car is old. Could be 4 or 5 year old gas. Just the fact that the car is running this well. These polished wheels, believe it or not, I believe were an option. Standard, I read, was like a more of an argent or a satin finish wheel. That's actually the wheel with a little cap on the front and a trim ring. It's a 3-piece design. And I read that the polished ones were an option. Also an option, this car has cornering lights. You may have noticed that already. Pretty loaded up Toronado for 1966. And like I said, it is the deluxe model. A little ding here on the fender. You'll notice it's got, I believe, dealer installed vinyl moldings here that are riveted on. But what I actually like about them is that they're green to match the interior. Generally, I'm not a fan of those moldings when they're not factory installed, but I think on this car it helps offset that green interior because it's a green vinyl insert. I actually kind of like them. I usually don't. I also want to show you over here another boo-boo in the quarter panel. Excuse me. We got a dent right here. See that right in here. Maybe a good dent guy could take that out, but this isn't like a new car. You'd have to be a really good PDR guy, but I wouldn't be surprised if the right guy could push that out by accessing down through here with the right tools. That's really the worst part of the body. That's very rust free. The undercarriage is super, super clean. There's photos of that on our website. Listen to that car run. This is how it's been since we got it here. They sold just under 41,000 of these in 1966. It was a pretty popular car. 40,963 to be exact. That number would fall almost in half in 1967, sadly. I'm going to move the other issue with the car is one of the headlight doors doesn't open. Driver's side one comes up nice. Passenger side one doesn't. Dead on arrival. And it does. I got it to open manually a couple hours ago. The headlight's on, but it's facing the ground. Kind of see it there. So that headlight door does not open. These are vacuum controlled headlight doors, much like the Lincolns of the day. So obviously there's a vacuum leak over there on the passenger side. So, although a lot of good bones on this car, it definitely does need a little bit of love, a little bit of tinkering. And again, we're pricing the car accordingly to help the gentleman out. Sort of in a tough way right now. Help him out by selling his two cars. The 76 Cadillac is currently still available as well. You can check that out on my website. It's a beautiful 76 DeVille, sedan DeVille. But this Toronado really knocks it out of the park, I think. I absolutely love this car. I wish it was a different color, admittedly. I'm not ashamed to say that, but I've had a couple guys in here that love the color. I just think in 1966 there was so much better colors that the gentleman could have chosen. To each his own, right? That's what makes the world go round. So we've got this here on consignment for our friend, and we're asking a very reasonable price for this car, just $8,900, just $8,900. So sure, we've got some issues. We got that dent in the passenger side quarter panel. We've got a Comfortron automatic temperature control system that seems to be dead on arrival. We got a lazy passenger side headlight door. A couple of the functions on the power seat. Oh, the power seat. That's right. I believe it works when the engine's running. I moved it. Now it's not working. And it could be this. The wiring through the door. Well, that's working. The front tilt's working, but I can't get forward and back to work. And it worked from before because I had to move it to drive it to the shop. And it's not working now. So the power seat is cantankerous. Radio works beautifully. I don't want to get any copyright infringements, but the AM/FM stereo from the factory works great. We've got a Comfortron system with some issues, power seat with some issues. Power windows all go up great. All from the driver's side too. So we got good power windows. So there you go, 8,900 bucks. We got a prototype on wheels here from General Motors. One of the most beautiful cars to come out of General Motors in the 1960s. Fantastic bargain, great entry-level collector car. You could drive it the way it is, of course. I would probably put a set of tires on it. Would probably be my first order of business. Maybe that headlight door. There's got to be a vacuum leak over there somewhere. But you take it to as far or as little as you want it to go. It's very presentable, nothing to be ashamed of. Check out my website, orphancargarage.com. We got about 80 or 100 photos of the car. I can get this car shipped to you anywhere pretty reasonably. You'd be surprised how inexpensive it could be to get shipped right to your front door. We do it all the time. Any questions, give me a call, 508-954-8090. Again, orphancargarage.com. Just $8,900 for this rolling work of art from Oldsmobile. Thanks again. Until the next one, we'll see you down the road.